Good morning, everyone. This is the third time I'd start this video. I started the first one and Mario called and I didn't put the phone on Do Not Disturb. I started the second one and I didn't notice that I didn't reverse it, so you were seeing my garage door. So anyway, okay, enough of that. So, there's a couple of things I want to talk to you today about, and for right now we're going to talk about strongholds. Okay, so being the teacher that I am, I looked up the definition for a stronghold, and it is a defensive structure. Okay, so that's a stronghold. It's something, it's just what it says. It's something that holds on to you very strong. Okay, so there are very negative strongholds. There are positive, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about your kind of like the ones that are giving you trouble, that are negative, that are hindering your life. Okay, so a stronghold, have my notes right here, can be formed by anything that was going on like when you were younger, and then you had to build that defensive structure. Okay, so it could be a broken heart. Like I always talk to my students about, like, you're gonna remember that first person that broke your heart. You'll always remember that person. And then from there, you decide, oh, no one's ever gonna break my heart again. I'm not gonna fall in love again. And that progresses and it becomes a bigger stronghold, okay? It could be betrayal, not being loved properly. Like when you were young, you know, you had parents that, you know, had their own issues. So they didn't give you like the love that you needed, maybe. Also, maybe parents didn't protect you, adults didn't protect you from very traumatic events. There was a lot going on in your house. There was so much dysfunctionality that you had to figure out how to defend yourself, and so you've done that all your life. That could be a stronghold, okay? And those eventually become like personal sins, ungodly strongholds, okay? So, let's think about it as like a bad habit that you have, okay? So I don't have a bad habit, of course, right? I have a habit that I drink way too much coffee, okay? So I always tell the students that I like drinking coffee because it reminds me of my tata, my mom's dad, because I would sit and drink coffee with him. And he was a very loving man. Well, at least that's how I remember him, you know. I could have formed this whole being of him, but I remember that he was a very loving man, and I used to love when my mom gave me coffee and I would go sit with him. Of course, it would be more milk than coffee, right? And then when I go see my mom, that's what we used to do too. We used to sit and have coffee and, you know, Mexican bread, sweet bread or something, you know, from Starbucks or something. Okay, so I see myself that, if you don't know, I'm a very observant person, so, and I observe my surroundings, and that's from my dysfunctionality that I have. So I perceive what's gonna happen and what to do, and, you know, anyway. So the bad habit with coffee is like when I'm in the classroom and, you know, remember I have 34 beings that are in middle school, 13, 14, you know, sometimes 15, sometimes almost 16. And, you know, they have their own things going on, their own strongholds or whatever. I tend to go for the coffee. So I go make coffee because the coffee makes me feel better. Okay, so that is a stronghold in a way, okay? So that is a good habit and a bad habit because it's bringing me joy, but it's a bad habit, okay? Because it causes a lot of inflammation in my body, and that makes my body hurt. So this stronghold, like when you have a stronghold in your mind, because of this dysfunctionality or whatever happened to you, or you just like doing things your way, you're just controlling yours, you know, it's really difficult to be open-minded or think other ways, okay? So what happens is that when I learned from when I was getting my master's degree, I did a master's in curriculum and instruction, and we talked about the whole brain. So, and remember, this is like relating to my students. So it's kind of like you, because you're really a student. We all are students. We're still learning. So when you have a stronghold, right, and you start thinking about, oh, I have to do this before they do that, or I have to do this because they will not do that. You start to sabotage. You're sabotaging your learning. And it's easier for an adult to get over it because we're using different parts of the brain. But when my students sabotage their learning, it's because they haven't learned to use the full brain, okay? I'm not an expert at the brain, but that's how I understood it. So if you have, when you were younger, you lived in full dysfunction, craziness going on in your house, which I did, okay? And you learned how to, not get close to people, or not have them, love you, or, don't, very defensive, or, whatever it is that you have the stronghold. You also maybe acquired this little thing that says, well, God has never been there for me, so why should I do why should I do what he tells me to do? You see what I'm saying? It's like, why you kind of like blame God because you had to deal with all this other things in your life. So it's difficult to get rid of that stronghold. And that stronghold is making you not be able to get close to him. Okay, because remember in the other videos I said, oh yeah, all peace and love, and oh, everything's going to be great, right? Yes, just love God, read the Bible, find out the truth, and yeah, that's all wonderful. When you start reading the Bible, oh my God, you learn all these things, that you're righteous, and you have this, and you have that, and you could do anything through the strength of the Lord, because he's always there. Yet, you still live among the world, and horrible things are going on in the world. And then what you do is you kind of like put God to the side, and you bring in this stronghold and say, okay, well, I'm going to do it like this. No, remember we said stay with God, and you said, no, but all my life I've taken care of myself, so I'm going to do it like this. So you go back to that. So you forget all the peace and love and the happiness and whatever tools you were using to stay with God. So that's the difficult part. Okay, so you have all this wonderful stuff that is available to you through God, but you're also human, and you have developed all this stuff that you rely on. And if you do have some faith and some hope and something, you have kind of like that foundation, that's wonderful, that you're way ahead than other people. But if you're like totally disconnected from God, then you have to start from the scratch and figure out how you're going to get closer to him. So, if you find yourself that you have all these strongholds, right? And who creates these strongholds in you? It's the devil. It's evil. Okay, evil. Remember we talked about how he's talking in your ear, and he's saying, why are you going to go for that promotion? You know you're not qualified. Why are you going to go to school? You know you're not smart enough. Why are you going to have kids? You know you're going to suck at parenting. Excuse my language. What else? What else is he saying in your ear, Because the more dysfunctional you are, the more strongholds you tend to have, okay? So what's the solution? Start drinking coffee. It'll make you feel better. No, not really. Okay, so what's the solution? Okay, there are ways to combat these strongholds. You have to figure out how to think differently. And when you've been taking care of yourself all your life and you're your only hope, that is difficult to do. So, just so you know that we do, when we are in God, we are in God's, I don't want to say army because it's not an army. We are in God's, what's the word? I'll think of the word. But anyway, so tearing down strongholds, that's what you want to do. You want to start tearing down your strongholds. And if you really don't know what they are, then maybe if you start reading how to tear them down, maybe God will come to you and say, that's what you know what you're doing. You're doing that. You're doing that. Like once upon a time, and my brothers and sisters will tell you this because, anyway, they would say it's always everybody else's fault, Monica. It's never yours. Well, of course it wasn't my fault. I got into trouble because of someone else. I got into trouble. It was always somebody else. It was never me. It was never me. But it was good because I took responsibility for myself early on. So I don't know, that's like a stronghold. That's like, okay, I took responsibility for myself and I got myself out of trouble because there really wasn't anyone there to get me out. But I did it by saying, well, it was their fault. So I kind of justified my behavior, but I did get out of it. Okay, if that makes sense. So see, that's not good. That's not good. Anyway, that's an example of a bad stronghold. Okay, so it took me a while to understand that that's how I was. People would tell me, my brothers and sisters would tell me, it's always someone else's fault. It's never yours, right? Well, yeah, you know, that's usually how human beings are, and I'm the baby of the family, so of course it wasn't my fault. Okay, so I want to read a verse to you. It is 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 7 through 9. Okay, we're ready? Each of you should give as you have decided in your heart to give. You should not be sad when you give, and you should not give because you feel forced to give. God loves the person who gives happily, and God can give you more blessings than you need. Then you will always have plenty of everything, enough to give to every good work. It is written in the scriptures. He gives freely to the poor. The things he does are right and will continue forever. So once you figure out what that stronghold is, he will give you what you need to combat that stronghold. Okay? And how will he give it to you? Okay, so it's 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 3 through 5. We do live in the world, but we do live in the world, but we do not fight in the same way the world fights. We fight with weapons that are different from those the world uses. Our weapons have power from God that can destroy the enemy's strong places or strongholds. We destroy people's arguments and every proud thing that raises itself against the knowledge of God. We capture every thought and make it give up and obey Christ. So, sorry, my lamp went on. So he's giving you these good things, right? And everything that's coming to mind that is a stronghold that he wants you to break through, he is giving you that weapon. Okay, and there's different weapons you can use. One is to capture every thought and make it obey Christ. So for example, okay, so we go back to the coffee, right, in the classroom. And if the lesson's not working, well, it's because of so-and-so, because he won't be quiet. And it's because of so-and-so, because she has an attitude. And it's, right? So the devil is telling me, give him detention, give him a referral. She's a little, you know what, and that's because of her. You just got her out of the class. No, that's not true. It's not true, okay? So he's trying to convince you that these kids are horrible. They're not horrible, they're just being kids. So I have to, as I'm teaching, right, because you know that teachers do 20 million things. You know that teachers live longer because we're always making so many, we're always coming up with solutions. So we live longer than any other profession. Okay, that's a little fact right there. So anyway, so I have to capture that thought and say, no, that's not my thought. and I will not take ownership for it. Okay? And that disappears. That's a weapon. But you know how long it took me to do that? It took me a long time to do that. And to say, and then when I talked to the little boy, I would really appreciate it if you would be quiet. Instead of, I'm going to give you detention and referral, you better stop, right? Because then he's going to fight with me. And then the little girl, right? So you have to learn to capture thoughts and make it obey Christ, all right? And that is difficult. I always say everything's difficult because it is. But once you get in the routine of that habit, right? I'm only going to drink 1 cup today. And then I drink 2, but I didn't drink 7, so it's good. Okay? So once it becomes a routine to lessen that stronghold. Maybe some days you're just gonna not, you're gonna be in the stronghold all day. That's okay. But tomorrow's a new day. So we're gonna try again, okay? And God will give you the weapons. He'll make you feel better. It'll make you feel better, not to listen to those awful strongholds, all right? So think carefully about what you hear. Give to others and they will give to you, but God will give you even more, okay? So respond differently to your strongholds. So there's a lot that I threw at you. What I would do right now, your homework, is figure out what your strongholds are. Okay? All right. So, I'm going to go because I think the guy is here cutting the grass. I know. So, have a good day. All right? Talk to you later.